All right, here we go. It's another Wednesday, April 30th. Welcome to another Water Cooler Wednesday. Have another really good topic, important topic that we're going to cover for you today. Joined as always by Dwayne Gibbs. Dwayne, what's
Good
happening, bud?
morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. Getting prepped for tomorrow?
Yeah, I got so much stuff to do and haven't even packed or nothing yet. So it's always, as so many years living on the road, it becomes old hat. You just throw it in a suitcase and go and hope and pray that I got everything you need. So
Yeah,
it's
good
a
stuff.
last minute thing. I'll probably won't pack until I walk out the door tomorrow morning.
For those who don't know, Dwayne and I traveled together probably for a good 10 years, maybe more, and almost twice, pretty much twice a month, I think, for most of the
I think it
stretch.
was longer than 10 years.
And yeah, was it 12 or something?
Yeah, it
I'm
was about
bad at
12,
that.
15, something like that.
Yeah, so a long time. And when you're traveling that much, and it's super simple because out with those clothes, in with the other set, and you're gone, and it's routine. But yeah, when you haven't traveled in a while, it's like, man, what else do I need? I always feel like I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, thank goodness I'm driving because now I can just load up the car and be like a closet. So
Yeah, I got one shot at it and see what I remember and forget. I'm more concerned with all my computer files because I work so much on the desktop and not so much on my laptop anymore. Or I'm like, got to make sure all of that's on this one and all that good stuff. But good times. We're both heading up to Nashville. We've got an industry event up there. And so there'd be note investors anywhere from people who are exploring getting into it, for people who have been in it for a long time. And then, of course, are people like myself who are going to be doing some instructing and presentations. There'll be some panels and all sorts of stuff. So it's all about networking. It's all about learning more about the business. And one of the topics, or I guess the name of the topic that I'm doing is due diligence with using AI. And it's something that we touched on when Dwayne and I were in Arizona a couple months back, and people were really interested in it, as they should be, because eventually AI is going to change a lot of things, and yes, even in our industry. But we're not quite there yet. So I have a lot to say about that particular topic. And one of the things that happens with the AI, which I've been playing with now for a long time, well, I shouldn't say a long time, but for half of the year, I've been incorporating it into my regular due diligence as much as I can and learning it as I go through it. You still have to be smart enough to ask it the right questions. You know that's one of the things. And Dwayne, that was the first thing that you commented. It's like, well, if people don't know what to ask it, kind of, you're right. It's like you gotta know what to prompt it with. Otherwise it's just gonna sit there and wait for you.
yeah, I mean, you can ask a question, and somebody that's a little bit smarter than you about a certain topic, they ask AI the same question, but in a different way. Different spin, more of an educated question. The response is going to be completely different
Yes.
as we see, and it doesn't matter if you're using Chat GBT, if you're using Gronk, it doesn't matter what you're using. I mean, that's going to be the outcome. So, your case in point is being smart about the topic that you're doing, especially when you're analyzing deals, real estate deals, land deals, whatever that research is. Know what you're asking. Being smart about it.
Yeah, in other words, it's going to be a fantastic assistant, and that's really what it is. But ultimately, it's even if you're using it, for example, to help you write articles or promote thoughts on articles to get you going, you're gonna have to finish the task there. We're not to the point yet, and who knows, with its advancing so fast, how far it's going to go. But there are limitations. And at least right now, yes, it can be a great assistant for you, but you do have to coach it along the way. You have to prompt it the right way. And you have to understand that it might just give you ideas to do something else. Certainly, for example, when we're doing our due diligence on things, we can run neighborhood information, demographics. We can have it estimate the value of the property. I mean, when you think about it, that's what Zillow and everybody else has really been doing for quite some time, using algorithms. This is slightly different with AI, but all the AI is doing is pulling all that data, putting it together and saying, here's based upon 20 websites, Zillow and Redfin and Real, this is what the property is worth and here's why and everything else. So it basically goes out, gets the information and brings it back in. But there's going to be limitations. And part of it is, again, asking the right questions. But the other part is it's not quite going to be able to get to the point yet where it can go into public records and pull documents. That day may come. How good is it at interpreting what's on those documents? That's very impressive. But there's some very expensive programs, even in the mortgage industry, that you can subscribe to that will scrub documents and extract information and compile it for you. But if you're buying individual notes, how much money do you want to spend on a monthly basis for that capability? And what I'm talking about, for example, and Dwayne, you've probably seen this, when PaperStack's been using an AI program for quite some time. But when you get onto a certain point in a PaperStack closing, you either have to manually enter all the information to create the assignments and the allonges, or it says upload the last assignment. And if you upload the last assignment, the AI tool goes through and extracts data from that assignment and pops it into the new one. And then you have the capability of going in there and saying, nope, that's not correct, or changing something. For example, one of the ones we closed on a couple weeks ago, it did too short of a version of the legal description, and it didn't pick up on part of it. So I had to go back in there and add that in, but I caught that, so again, it did a great job. It saved me a lot, of time, 10, 15 minutes, but still, of typing and searching. But at the end of the day, I still had to check it and make sure and even correct it in certain circumstances. So in the case study that I have for you today, I want to show you, a live idea of why that issue is important here. A lot of the loans that are available today that are really good loans have gone through some kind of a modification. So back when the crash happened, you had a lot of real estate investors who were buying non-performing loans, and they were buying them at such a discount that they were able to help the person stay in the home by doing loan modifications. These are the same loan modifications banks could have done, by the way, but they were either not willing or able to do. And I mean, not able simply because not only of the number of people that it would need to reach out to all the people in foreclosure, but they also were under financial pressure to get these assets off of their books. So there was a lot of things combining to that fact where they just had to get rid of these. So investors bought them really cheap, and then they went through and did loan modifications. Okay, so loan modifications changes the terms of the loan, and it's very important that you go through that. So for example, if you were looking at this property, you could take the address, you could run that through AI, you could come up with an opinion of value. It's likely to be around the $191,000 mark, but it would pull all of that data at one time from about 15 or so different sources and say, yes, this property is worth somewhere between 180 and $200,000. Okay, that part is great, and you could find out bedrooms, baths, all that sort of basic stuff about the collateral in that case, because again, we're not buying that home. That home is simply the collateral for what we have here. And if that's the case, this one had an unpaid balance of $136,000. So once again, you could actually take this information, put it into AI, and say, hey, here's a note, here's the balance, here's the legal balance, here's the unpaid balance, here's the interest rate, here's the term, here's the payments, and they're asking for this amount of money. Or in this case, they're saying make an offer. You could ask AI, what would I make an offer on? Well, you got to get more specific than that, right? Again, that's not a smart question. What would I make an offer on? Based upon what? Based upon this investment to value ratio, based upon this kind of a discount, based upon this kind of a yield, and you would put in very specific numbers there, what would my offer be? It will crank out a result for you. There's no question about it. Okay. So you can do that. All right. So let's say you do that. You run through your numbers. Everything looks good. So here's the basic numbers. You got a new loan, 141,000. The unpaid balance on this one, the 6% interest, 847 are the monthly payments. They start in 2008 and it matures in 2038. That's the documentation that you're looking at. Now, you're not going to be able to run that through AI unless you have a special paid program that will scrub that data. So if you're using just a basic AI program, it's not going to go through and extract all that data for you. Okay. A paid program, which is probably going to be not cost effective for you, would be able to extract that data. But again, how quick do you have to move on something like that where you could see where the information, I mean, all the information to the right is right there, in basically a half of a page. So for those just listening to this and not seeing the visual, it's just a screenshot of part of a note, and that just came up with all that data. Here's what the balance is on the loan, the interest rate, the monthly payments, when it starts and when it ends. Very simple things for us to look at. It's this particular note's been seasoned, it says, for 14 months. It's been owner occupied for 15 years. So there's a motivation for people who want to stay and pay on this. And so number wise, again, if you ran all this through AI, great. It's going to crank out an offer. No problem. It's not going to tell you the history of this note. And that can be important for you as well, because we're not only concerned about the collateral, but we're concerned about the clarity of the title. And Dwayne, I don't know how many times we've run into deals where people, you know, they don't think about the title of the property. Oh, that's the collateral. If there's a clouded title, there's a problem.
Right. Absolutely.
And they buy these things thinking, oh, well, I didn't get that, and they're paying, so everything's fine, and it is fine until they stop paying.
So it's not.
Yeah. And then
Till it's not.
yeah, and then you lawyer up to start a legal action, and then you find out, oh, the titles, there's this on there, there's that on there. That, I mean, you've got some work to do, and you might still win a foreclosure case. By the way, everybody, it's just going to cost you more in time and money. So the time to look at that is now. So again, there's no program that I'm aware of that will go through and tell you about the title. But again, we can order a title report, which a human being will go through and pull all that information. Maybe one day all that information will get pulled automatically. That's fine. But guess what? You're still going to have to compile it and make sure that you can see that. So for example, what I'm showing on the screen, right now is go back, is the history really of the deed of this property going back to 2011. And why did I stop at 2011? I didn't have to go past that. Number one, because I already see what happened here, where Bank of America took this property over, and then it was assigned over to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So right away, I know that this was an FHA insured loan that went bad. Okay, now I don't know if AI is quite there yet on just picking up from that. How do I know that? Because the only reason that we go back to HUD is because HUD oversees, it's a part of their department, FHA loans. So FHA loans are done under HUD. If an FHA loan goes bad, then it goes back to HUD, and then HUD sells off that property. Okay, so when it gets back to HUD, that means it's been foreclosed upon. So the title is clear at that point in time. So Condor picked it up. You remember Condor, Dwayne?
Oh yeah.
And Condor's still around, just a different name. Kind of a
Are
weird.
they?
Yeah, kind of a weird name. It just popped out of my head. But anyway, so Condor then picked up this loan directly from HUD. And shortly thereafter, I don't know why that keeps clicking over, Condor sold it to Cena Capital. I think you know who that is too.
Yes.
And then Dwayne and I go back a little ways, everybody. And we trained a lot of these people in this business. So Cena Capital, who we know, sold it to this other company, which I'm not familiar with, which is NCO HTX, whatever that is. And then they assigned it over to the current owner, Steve, and I blocked out the last name. So this shows kind of a history of where it was. It gives me an idea of where the title is on this. And again, with your assistance with AI, looking at the collateral, coming up with value, even running numbers for you, you can now compare, okay, is it papered up the right way? Do the numbers make sense? Yes, but what about the story behind it? What about the title? What about the paperwork involved here? And then you can see that the loan was modified back in 21, doesn't matter, end of 21. So this loan went through a modification. Okay. When a loan goes through a modification, now there are signs that it went through a modification, by the way. And I could have slowed down and showed you that in the very beginning. In the very beginning, when I saw that listing, I could tell you with a high degree of accuracy if that loan had gone through modification or not, simply by running the original numbers. Now, again, could I prompt AI to do that? I could, but I could also do it in about 30 seconds on a handheld calculator. Okay. And it would give me a sign that it's been modified. So in this particular case, I had to ask them, I said, it looks like this loan's been modified. Can you send me that documentation? And see, that goes back to our initial point is even with note sellers, if you're dealing with a note seller, they'll provide you with information. Okay. But you have to be smart enough to know to ask for additional information. If I didn't know how to run those numbers, I wouldn't. I would have just assumed, oh, okay, they're just been paying on this loan and everything's fine. No, the numbers triggered me to go, something's up here. It looks like there's a loan modification done. Now, again, I might find that loan modification in public records, but I'm going to ask the seller about it. And seller said, yes, it was modified. Okay, I got to take a look at the loan modification. So in this particular loan modification, this loan indeed had gone bad, meaning they stopped making payments. And the principal amount of the debt, it started at $141,000. They fell behind. The current debt is still, after all those years, $137,000, but they've accrued up this unpaid balance, and that gets interest tacked on upon it and everything else. So you may have extracted this data. You're not going to have an AI program, not yet, be able to read through this and interpret this for you. Okay. It might be able to pull some data, extract some data, but you've got to learn to go back to check if you're using AI. Now, in this particular case study, I wasn't using AI yet, by the way, because I hadn't really latched onto it yet. Let's face it, there's a little bit of a learning curve here. So on the screen now, for those who are just listening, what I'm showing are screenshots of the actual loan modification. And on the very top, it says modification terms. So this was modified back in 2021. Now, why would that matter to me if it's modified in 2021? Right? I mean, that was a long time ago. Who cares what happened back then? No. It's extremely important what happened back then. And here's why. So on the first thing, you could see they made a good faith payment. Okay, they hadn't made a payment in years, and they're facing potential foreclosure. So the note holder at the time said, well, look, we'll modify this loan for you, but there's a little give and take here. You give us $3,000. After all, you haven't made a payment in X number of years. You pay us $3,000 in good faith. And we'll do the following loan modification when you pay that $3,000. That's a pretty good and fair deal. So the total unpaid amount past due on this loan was $123,000. That's the total unpaid amount past due. That's all the missed payments, all the accrued interest and penalties and everything else. So that bumps their loan, which was originally $141,000. It bumps it all the way up to $193,000. So they owe a lot more than the original loan, because after all, they owe $123,000 in unpaid balance here. So the terms of this modification was, okay, here's how we'll do it to make it where you can afford these payments. You owe us $193,000. We're going to take $55,000 of that and just move it to the back of the loan. We're going to take it out of the amortization schedule and everything else. It's not going to accrue interest or anything. So it's going to be non-interest bearing. It's just going to be this final amount, $55,000 that you owe when the loan matures. Again, pretty sweet deal. Okay, so non-interest bearing. It even says that on line item C there. It just is a amount we're going to freeze and put in the back end. So that's going to lower on line E there. That's going to lower their modification balance down to $138,000. The $138,000 at 6.2% interest is the one that they're going to start making payments on. So their payments are $1,355 a month. And we're going to stretch out that loan again. And we're going to move the maturity date back to 2051. Okay, so they stretched the loan, they deferred the balance on this loan, and you got the balance there. So you get a picture of what that looks like. They also wrote that up right on the loan modification on the screen in a summary, which is great. But you'll notice in this summary, which was also in the writing there, that $52,000 that was deferred, or $53,000 that was deferred. They're giving them also a chance to have that forgiven. So we'll modify this loan. We'll take this deferred balance, of $55,000. And here's what we'll do. In 1 year, if you pay your payments on time every single month under this new modification, we'll forgive half of the $55,000. That's pretty sweet. Carrot and stick, right? If you perform, then we'll forgive that debt. The second one, it says the following year in 2023, again, if you are making your payments on a timely basis, we'll forgive the other half of the 55 grand. Fantastic. So they have a chance by just making their payments on time of saving $55,000. That is a strong motivator to make your payments on time. Okay, that's what the modification says. Now, if you did not read that modification, what you would have seen was a payoff statement, which is accurate, by the way, right here from the servicing company, showing what the balance of this loan is when you are to buy it. Okay, so what I mean is they did this modification 2021, and now it's a year later or so, and you're looking to buy this loan. This is what you would have seen. So you see on there, let me see, get these lines right. So the 136,000 is the principal balance. Okay, this is as of payoff date in 2023. Okay, so you're looking to buy this note in February, end of February 2023. It shows a balance of $136,000, $1,400 in accrued interest, $33 in accrued late charges, and $27,608 in unpaid charges. There's another trust balance on there with a total balance of $163,000. So most investors are going to run their numbers on what number, of course, Dwayne? Total payoff, right? I mean, that they're just going to take that total amount and say, well, that's the loan balance. And they're going to make all their ratios based upon that. Okay, this number right here on the bottom, everybody, 163 and change. Okay, what about this $27,000 though they're showing for unpaid charges? Well, that's that same amount of money, everybody, that is going to be forgiven if the people make their payments on time. So if you didn't read through the modification and understand that there is not only a deferred balance, but a forgivable deferred balance based upon performance, you would have overpaid drastically for that loan because you think you're getting 27,000 extra dollars on there and you're not. And the servicing company was 100% accurate because when you look at the dates on everything, this is months before the deferred. They don't know if the person's going to live up to that performance or not. Okay. So they're showing that that balance is in fact due. But the reality is, if they pay on time, which we look at the payment history, which they are absolutely doing with good reason, then guess what? That extra $27,000 that you thought you were getting, you're not going to get. You're overpaid. Okay. So you have to understand and go through these documents. Don't just, especially right now, don't just rely on AI to run your numbers, to tell you about the collateral and all that to make it nice and easy and quick for you. It's always in the details, everybody. And we're not at a point yet that the AI can go through and interpret what I just told you in that documentation. I'm not saying that we won't get there. Who knows? We may. Somebody will design some program that will be able to extract all of this information that's right here and say, hey, here's the thing. But we're not there yet. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen people do that, expecting that they're supposed to get that money back, and clearly they don't. I think AI is evolving. I know since I've been using it for several months now, I can tell the reply is a little bit different. It's a little bit more detailed, but to go to the magnitude of being able to pull the records and all, I think that's still going to be further down the road. I mean, it's really sensitive information. I think that you know, listen, you're really not educating yourself if you use an AI for everything. You're not really evolving. It's like getting the answers to the test. Did you really know it? Well, no, somebody gave you the answers to the test. You really don't know what the test was about or what the subject was about. So I think it's good for a lot of things, but at the end of the day, you still need to work that brain.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. Like I said, I think it's going to be a fantastic assistant. I've used it on a lot of other legal questions too, by the way. I had an email yesterday from a client, and she bought a non-performing second, not under my tutelage, by the way. This is
Mm,
before she came to me because she's not doing that now. But she had a very specific question about, I'm looking at it on my other screen here, um, about what you have to do in this is up in Boston. What do you have to do up in Boston to foreclose? And you have to register it with the city and all these sort of things with this. And I put it in AI, and I was pressed. It came back saying, yes, that's under so and so. I said, well, tell me more
yes.
about that statute. And it said, here's what you do, here's what the process is, here's how it works, and everything else. So I sent her all of that and just said, yeah, it looks like this may or may not apply based upon these other items here. But then my question came back, which was this. I said, I know you're focused on that and what you have to do to foreclose, but my thing became, why are you foreclosing from second position on a performing first?
What was her answer?
I haven't got it back yet.
Maybe
I
she's still
sent it
thinking
to-
about her
I
going to
just sent it
AI
to her.
to ask why.
Well, I just sent it to her yesterday because I was impressed by, again, the knowledge of the AI, but you got to step back and go, well, wait a minute. Why am I even doing this? Because in most cases, and this is what I told her, in most cases, if you're foreclosing from second position, it's subject to the first, which means you're either taking over the payments on the first or the first is going to accelerate the loan and you have to pay that off, which only works if there's a bigger second with the smaller first. But how often have we seen that?
Yeah,
You
long
know?
time ago.
So usually it's a big first and a small second. So it's still got to come back to, is it worth foreclosing in her case? Another one, oh gosh. Oh, it was a deal I closed on. No, we closed on Monday, a deal up in Pennsylvania with in my
The
partner.
land, yeah.
No, this is a different one. This is on a house out in Pennsylvania. The
Is
land
it
deal,
the one in rural? That's rural.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nice. That was a nice deal.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So that one's closed, and either Friday or Monday. The land deals
Nice.
they just closed all Monday too. But the one in Pennsylvania. So I got the paperwork back. Of course, I let my partner, student, hey, everything's done. We own it. I'll get the document recorded. So I went to get it e-recorded, uploaded the document, and you kind of wait, right? It goes to the county and then it goes through whatever process, and it comes back and it got rejected. Now, documents getting rejected with e-recording, it happens, all the time, so it's sometimes you're missing a date or they don't want anything, left blank. The spacing wasn't right, whatever it is. So when it comes back, you don't, it's not they're rejecting recording it. There's a mistake you got to fix. So they told me in this one, I can't remember if this was in the county in Pennsylvania or if it is in Pennsylvania in general. That I can't recall, nor did it really matter. I just want to get this document recorded, right? So it said I needed to have in Pennsylvania a, what do they call it? Certificate of, cert-
Purchase.
there's a certificate that you had to verify who the assignees were. So it was my partner's company and my company, and they said we need a certification of ownership and address on that, which isn't a part of the assignment, right? We just have our names on there. So they wanted names and. Well, I don't know what that looks like in Pennsylvania. So what did I do? I went to
I
AI.
wonder if that's for Pennsylvania. I've never heard of. Have you heard of that? Where that's been asked before?
It's I can't remember. I would have to look it up again to see what if it was Pennsylvania, and it probably was. Pennsylvania's made some. Well, you remember you had some servicing companies pull out of Pennsylvania,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
recall, because
yeah.
Pennsylvania made some changes. So it's probably certificate of residence. That's what it was.
I got you.
Yeah. So I'm like a certificate of residence. What does that look like? Because I didn't want to submit it again and then have them reject it. I'm going back and forth, like, how do I? Because they don't send you a form, everybody. They just go, you need this. So I put it into Grok, which is the AI that I prefer. And I said, I need a certificate of residence for Pennsylvania. And it cranked out a little template for me, which was pretty darn cool. And I filled it out. The template they gave me was only for one company, which I could have probably told it was for two companies. But I just modified it, made it for both of us. My partner and I put that he owns 90% of the note. I own 10% of the note, and put the addresses on there, electronic signature, attached that PDF to the assignment, uploaded it again. 2 hours later, approved, done, recorded. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's definitely useful purposes of the AI, but not for every instance. And I just don't want everybody to become solely dependent upon that, thinking it's a easy way to go. All right, that's a good one.
Good lesson.
Good lesson. And that's all I've got for you today. I've got info here. It's going to be too late for you to come out and see us, of course, in where are we going? Not Nashville. Almost said Knoxville, but going to be
Yeah,
in.
I think they I think you can still register.
Mhm,
They still can get the discount if they use your code.
mhm.
They just can't get the hotel. The hotel blockage is done, so they would need to find a different place. But I'm sure they can still sign up and come to the event. I'm sure Nathan's not going to turn them away.
Yeah, yeah, you got that right. And while I'm looking up, we may have some new listeners, some new followers. Why don't you tell them if they want to learn more? Great opportunity with that free video that.
Absolutely. So, what Kevin's talking about is that he produced 4 videos that we are giving away free. The only thing you have to do is go to kevinshortell.com and then sign up, become a member of the network. And when you become a network of the member, there's going to be a questionnaire. We always try to, you know, get feedback from new listeners, as well as existing people that are here. And we just try to, what do we really need to touch base on? What are students and new listeners asking for? And so we created a questionnaire that will be sent to you. And when you fill that out, hit submit, and then you will instantly get these new videos that Kevin just produced. Awesome stuff, Kevin. Really good stuff. And so that's yours free. I mean, so fill out the questionnaire. You'll have access to those 4 videos, and that's it. I mean, we've had an overwhelming response. Really good. Um, really, people are thinking about the questions and filling it out. And normally, you do a questionnaire, and they use one or two words for the answer, but really in depth of their answers to the questions that we ask. And so good stuff. We have some people that want us to follow up with them, some don't. And if you don't, that's fine too. But get those videos. It's free. Kevin did a
Yeah,
great
there's
job
no
at doing it.
yeah no obligation on any
Not
of
at
it.
all. Not
It's
at all.
yeah, you may go through and say, well, business isn't for me, or maybe it is, and then you'll learn more about us and the role that we play. And the website is www.learn, www.kevinshortell, and remember that's shortle.com, and that'll take you right there, and you just kind of follow through a couple of steps, and it's a, it won't take you long to do the survey. And again, the survey it's under that, constant and never-ending improvement. What can we do better? How can we address concerns that maybe we haven't thought about? And so it gives us good feedback, and to thank you for that, you get the free 4-video series, and I think you will enjoy that. So
Good
great.
stuff.
Yeah, please do that, and let us know you enjoy the Water Cooler Wednesday. I do also repost on YouTube, and if you're just on the podcast, I do broadcast it on the podcast as well.
Also, Kevin does a tip of the day, which comes out, if not every day, every other day, with just latest information, deals that he's working on, deals that he has seen that kind of gave him a red flag that he needed to do more deeper dive into it, and giving an answer on deals that he's working on. So, or just fun fact for the day. So tune into that. That's on YouTube, and look up Kevin Shortell tip of the day.
Yeah, you got it. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Look forward to talking to you again next Wednesday, if not sooner.
Goodbye.